2 weeks ago, I did a 20-year reunion trip. I rafted the Colorado River, 227 miles through the Grand Canyon. Did it 20 years ago with a group of 36 other speakers. Think about that. Spent over a week on the Colorado River with a group of speakers. If we ever do the trip again, we will take a raft of audience just so we got somebody to listen to us. Now, this group knows that speakers are, for the most part, type A personalities. They are very competitive. And every few days, we would come to a waterfalls on the side of the river, and we would have a little competition to see who could first penetrate the waterfalls. And we came to, towards the end of the trip, Deer Creek Falls, the largest, most violent waterfalls on the Colorado River, 110 feet high. And for about 30 minutes, a group of us knocked ourselves silly trying to get in, trying to penetrate behind the falls where there'd be a space big enough for one or two or a small group of people to stand. Nobody could do it. And finally, the professional river guide spoke up. He said, "Look, as far as I know, nobody's ever made it in. Matter of fact, last trip, we got 6 big people to join arms. They tried to walk in a line. They couldn't do it." And somebody on our trip said, "Hey, what would happen?" I don't even remember who, but they said, "What would happen if we formed a circle and we locked elbows? You know, maybe the protection and the strength of an unbroken circle, we could penetrate the falls." I remember this very vividly because I was one of the 6. And on my right, I locked elbows with a speaker from North Carolina named Al Walker. At the time, Al weighed over 400 pounds. On my left, I locked elbows with a guy from Kansas City named Ed Grief. Ed was 6'3" and 1/2 inches tall. Learned an interesting lesson that day on the Colorado River about commitment. And that is, when you have locked elbows with people who are bigger than you are committed. And the reason I tell you this is because the closer we got to the waterfalls, the dumber this idea seemed to me. The water was getting deeper. It was getting more violent. It seemed to be getting colder. When we finally stopped, we couldn't go any further. We were directly underneath Deer Creek Falls. Water is coming down on my head like an avalanche. It's bubbling up underneath my nose. I'm ready to leave, but Ed and Al have a death grip on my elbows. And I know it sounds weird, but I began to debate that age-old question. How long can the human body go without air? And what's even stranger is I recall thinking, and if I should suffer brain damage, how will my friends and relatives be able to tell? See, I hadn't breathed for a very long time. Suddenly, I could feel the circle start to weaken. All of a sudden, 5 of the 6 of us are ejected. We're spit back out in front of the waterfall. So we do a quick head count, and now we assume we have killed a member of our trip. We figure they are drowned. They are in the water floating. We are searching frantically when the 6th person, one of the kids actually, came busting out of the falls, waving his hands over his head, yelling, "I did it! I did it! I was in." And when he calmed down, he explained, when we could not go any further, as a group of 6, he looked over his shoulder, saw a space just big enough for one. He released. He pushed off the group, became, as far as we know, the first person to ever fully penetrate Deer Creek Falls. I came up through competitive athletics, competitive academics, competitive business, and I wish today I could say, that was me. It wasn't. But I tell the story for the simple reason that I got just as big a thrill out of being part of the team who put him there as if I had done it myself. And see, what I learned that day in ice cold water up to my nose is that competition is a wonderful thing. I believe in competition. I started speaking in 4-H competition. I was a member of the first Toastmasters International Collegiate Chapter at The Ohio State University in the late 70s. I was a charter member. I believe in competition. But what I learned that day on the river is even more important. Competition's a wonderful thing, but you always accomplish more cooperating with people than you do competing against them. That's the power of relationship.